A child who's intent on blaming problems on other people has a serious problem. It's actually more serious than you might imagine, because a child who can't take responsibility for themselves develops some victim mentality. And when you have a victim mentality, then you have this sense that if everyone else would change, I'd be fine. And that approach to life is dangerous. In fact, it develops an entitlement mentality that you owe me, and it removes children from the responsibility that they need to take for themselves. Children who know how to take responsibility for themselves admit when they've done something wrong instead of rationalizing or justifying or somehow moving in a direction that's not helpful, and blaming is just one of those things. A dad shared with me last week about a question in a text, and sent me a text and said, my daughter is having a hard time with correction. She gets angry whenever I try to correct her, and she blames the problems on other people and so on. And then she says to herself, I'm stupid. So she has this poor response to guilt, not knowing how to respond to it well. And so I sent back a text and I said, there's 4 areas you probably want to look at. These are all conscience related. When you do the right thing, then you have the sense of accomplishment. When you respond well to correction, then you have this humble attitude that allows you to admit your mistakes and learn from them. When you're honest, then you feel better about yourself. And when you care about others, then that'll help her to have a stronger self-concept. But let's zero in on the one that has to do with guilt in her life. And I suggested that they look at Proverbs chapter 12, verse 1. And that might be helpful for her, because it says there, he who loves discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates correction is stupid. Whoa, the same word she's using. And so they laughed together. And he said, that verse was helpful. And I also told her a story. I said, what if a man was walking, looking at his cell phone and walking toward a cliff and about to fall off the cliff? How would you characterize that person? And they agreed that this person would be stupid unless he was corrected. You see, there's some benefit to experiencing correction. And this little girl at 9 years old is getting it. She's starting to see that her response to correction isn't the wisest thing, and that it's okay to have lessons. You can win and you can learn. You don't have to lose. You can win if you're right, and you can learn if you're wrong. It's a very important thing that children learn from their mistakes, and it's a powerful way for them to grow and develop. I like it when it says in James 5:16, therefore confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. Sometimes it's the confession that's needed in order for healing to take place in a person's life. Maybe it's physical healing. Sometimes it's just the emotional challenges. Sometimes it's playing the victim. And we need to recognize that if we take responsibility for ourselves, it empowers us. This is the key thing. See, a person who develops this victim mentality gives away their power. They can't control. It's always somebody else's fault, and they look for ways to blame things on other people. But when a person learns how to take responsibility for themselves, then they have power to make changes. Because you can't control other people, but you can certainly control the way you respond to other people. And when you make a mistake and you learn from that mistake, or you make a mistake and you apologize, then you're in much more control of the situation. You're not giving away all of your power. So one of the things we teach children to do is to not blame and rationalize. If you see that happening, you want to stop it. Usually you're not going to stop it by using logic and saying, wait a minute, let's explain this to you. Maybe you can. But often it says, look, you just need to admit, what did you do wrong? What was your part of the problem? I know your brother ripped the remote control out of your hand, but what did you do wrong? And so as we address those things in children's lives, then they're able to take responsibility in a much more powerful way. Watch out for the blaming. It's a sign of a more serious internal problem going on inside the heart.